we'll be looking at some stars that might get traded in this NBA offseason. Now, this NBA offseason is forecast to be one of the craziest offseasons in NBA history, even reported by Shams Charania that this is about to be a crazy offseason because of the second April. A ton of teams want to trade players to relieve cap space, and also just a ton of teams want to contend as the NBA is wide open right now in the parity moments of the NBA. And right now, we have a ton of players that might get traded, starting with the Cavaliers with Darius Garland and Jared Allen. There have been reports saying that the Cavaliers' only two untouchable players are Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, so they might try to trade Garland and Allen because they did not perform as well as they could have this year. They only made it to the second round but lost to the Pacers after that really crazy 64-game win season, which was one of the best seasons in Cavs history, but they lost in the second round, and maybe they want to trade one of these two players. Now, I'm not sure what teams would want them, but for Allen, possibly like the Lakers or the Pelicans. For Garland, just any team that needs a point guard. He's a great point guard. And then let's go on to the next team. Boston Celtics are rumored to trade some of their core players because they do not have that cap space. They want to go under the first apron. They're not going to contend well next year with Tatum out for a majority of the season with the Achilles injury, but they want to relieve cap space. And Kristaps Porzingis and Jrue Holiday are the two most prime players to get traded. Porzingis can fit on a lot of teams. He is a great defender and a great shooter, but he underwhelmed in the playoffs this year. He was underwhelming, I mean. And he didn't really do well, but that might be because of his illness. And then Jrue Holiday, reports say the Mavericks and the Clippers are interested. Kind of old, getting up there in age, but still one of the best guard defenders in the league, one of the best role players in the league. And for the Mavericks, this will be a pretty solid trade if they aren't going to trade much players, because it's a great option to have before Kyrie comes back. And once Kyrie comes back, Holiday can play with Kyrie at a shooting guard. But he is a bit expensive, so I'm not sure who will want him, but he will most likely get traded alongside Porzingis. One of them at least will get traded. Next, the Knicks just fired Tom Thibodeau, which was a shock as he just literally gave them their first conference finals in 25 years, helped lead them. But now maybe Karl Anthony Towns gets traded. Towns was solid in the playoffs, but people did not really like his defensive intensity in the playoffs, as many people just scored on him pretty easily. So he might get traded after this one season with the Knicks, which would be kind of crazy, but I'm not sure. Possibly a Kevin Durant trade to the Phoenix Suns for Towns. But bench besides Deuce McBride and Mitchell Robinson is weak. So yeah, they should add more depth. And a coach too. Maybe Michael Malone is a great option as coach. Then, of course, the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, Giannis is kind of frustrated because the Bucks couldn't really win. Damian Lillard just tore his Achilles too. It might be over for Giannis on the Bucks. So, a lot of teams would want Giannis. Basically, any team would try to trade for Giannis. But the main teams include the Toronto Raptors, who are willing to trade anything for Giannis. Scotty Barnes is a main piece. The San Antonio Spurs, who could trade that number 2 overall pick, which would be a great start for the rebuild for the Milwaukee Bucks. And some young players like Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, some players like that, some salary cap filler, and that team, the Spurs, would be deadly. And then The Golden State Warriors are another option. The Houston Rockets are also another option. Miami Heat, just any team trying to contend, is an option right here for Giannis Antetokounmpo. It will be a crazy sweepstakes because it's not like Luka trade. Only one person wanted to get traded. One team wanted to get the trade. It will be a full sweepstakes for Giannis, and some offers might be crazy. Going on to Trae Young. Trae Young is another player that is rumored to get traded. He has been unhappy as the Hawks have been a perennial play-in team. So I'm not sure Trae wants to stay on the Hawks. And the Miami Heat are another option for Trae because that'll be a great fit alongside Bam Adebayo. Tyler Hero gives them a creator and a scorer. And then any other team who needs a point guard could use Trae. So this is a pretty underrated option on the market if he gets traded. Then Sixers, just in general. I'm not sure if they're going to trade Joel Embiid, but Paul George is probably on the market now. PG probably won't bring much, but that number 3 overall pick with PG will bring some stuff. And they might trade for another star like Kevin Durant with that number 3 overall pick, Phoenix Suns. And just whoever wants to start a rebuild, trying to trade Paul George for like a pretty solid player, role player. Maybe the Pelicans want Paul George for Trey Murphy or Zion Williamson. Nets for Cam Johnson or something. But yeah. Go on to the Western Conference. We have Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, he's not really a star, but this is a pretty big trade for the Warriors because he is most likely not going back to the Warriors. He's technically a free agent, but they're most likely going to sign and trade him to another team. The Chicago Bulls are an interesting team. They could get back Nikola Vucevic for the Bulls, which would be a great option at center. At least a pretty solid scorer at center. Brings another offensive piece. Because their defense is pretty good. They could put Draymond at center, Vuce at power forward, something like that. And just the Nets are another team that are interested because, I mean, they're rebuilding. So Kuminga could be a pretty good option. And he could possibly be a star in the future. Ja Morant. Now, the Grizzlies were underwhelming this year after getting the 2nd seed in February. They dropped all the way down to the 8th seed. Fired their coach, Taylor Jenkins. And then Ja Morant, I mean, they got swept in the first round versus Thunder. And Ja Morant might get traded because they might rebuild over Jared Jackson Jr. over Ja. Or maybe trade Bane, Jaren. Not sure, but Ja Morant would be a hot name in the market as a pretty young point guard, star point guard. Then we had the whole Kings roster. Sabonis, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan might all get traded. DeMar might go to the Heat. But Sabonis would be a great option for a ton of teams. He is one of the best centers in the league. And if the Kings decide to rebuild or he's frustrated and demands a trade, which might happen actually because they are not winning right now after that magical 2023 run. They have not won. De'Aaron Fox got traded for Zach LaVine, and now I don't know if they're going to try to rebuild. They fired their GM. Maybe the new GM has some different thoughts about the team. So all 3 of them might get traded. Finally, Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is definitely getting traded. Might even get traded by the NBA draft, which is only in like 3 weeks. So that's pretty quick. And a ton of teams are interested. At least 6 teams, 4 to 6 teams will be actual suitors for KD, who, even though he's getting up there in age, still one of the best players in the league. And he can definitely provide offensively, and he's not a liability on defense. And I think the biggest options for him are the Rockets, who they had the Suns picks back. So even though if they don't really want him, it's a great rental for like 1 or 2 years. Because I mean, they give the Suns their pick back, who the Suns really want that pick back because they might be bad soon. And the Rockets could contend now with a good offensive option. They definitely needed offense. And then the Spurs are another option. It would be great with Wemby, KD, Fox, Stephon Castle, more players too. Because they don't need to trade that much for KD. The Suns have lowered their trade demands for Kevin Durant. So that would be a great option. The Timberwolves are another option. Possibly Julius Randle or Rudy Gobert. The Timberwolves, KD and Ant would be a great duo. And that might boost them up to finally make the finals for the first time in a while. And then for the Eastern Conference, the Miami Heat are always a team that might trade for KD. I'm not sure if the Golden State Warriors want KD, but that could be an option. LA Clippers could also be an option. But yeah, that's basically it. Thank you guys for watching. We're out.